This is me learning Chinese, playing chess, learning to code. Why? Because one day I realized my brain stopped working the way it used to. Social media is rotting my brain and I want it back. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the war for your attention that your brain is fighting right now. Then I'm going to show you how you can win this war with a simple 4-step framework that you can use right now. It took me a long time to notice what was going on. Sometimes I couldn't spell words as easily as I did. I would lose my train of thought mid-sentence trying to explain something complex. I would scroll until I feel exhausted, but for some reason I'd keep scrolling. With reading, I used to disappear for hours into books. But lately I feel like I can't even focus on anything for 5 minutes. That's when I knew something was up and I started to ask a very important question. How do I get back to who I used to be? The answer turned out to be something I've been doing my entire life, and you probably have been too. Learning things. You don't need to go back to school. You don't even need to buy some guru's course. If you have an internet connection, a little bit of time, and a real desire to change, you can reclaim your ability to think and get smarter through self-education. But before I give you that 4-step framework, I need to introduce you to the enemy. Because to win the war, you first need to understand what you're fighting. Brain rot. The Oxford Dictionary's 2024 Word of the Year. The word that defined an entire calendar year was about our minds decaying from too much scrolling. The dictionary defines this as the supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state, especially viewed as a result of the overconsumption of material, now particularly online content, considered to be trivial or unchallenging. Brain rot has many forms. The short videos that stimulate your eyes but not your brain, the bullshit sounds engineered to hook children but communicate nothing, the reflex of asking ChatGPT before your own brain even has time to think about the question. It's overstimulation dressed up as entertainment. But what most people don't realize is that brain rot even includes the act of scrolling itself. Even if you think the content has some value, it could be something inspirational or educational, it doesn't matter. Still brain rot. If you're passively consuming, you're not thinking. And if you're not thinking, your brain is dying. Now, you're probably thinking, is there some actual science behind this? Are these apps literally damaging my brain? The honest answer is we don't know. For studies like this to be conclusive, they usually need a 20-year run. And I couldn't find any research that conclusively links content consumption to cognitive decline. The question is just still too new. However, there is a study that went viral recently called Your Brain on ChatGPT, which found that participants who used LLMs to write essays showed less brain activity and reduced neural connectivity. Very concerning. But the study was not peer-reviewed, and the authors were clear that their findings do not prove that LLMs destroy brain function. But let me ask you something. Do you really need a peer review paper to tell you that something is wrong when you can't focus on something for more than 20 minutes? How about when you pick up your phone for something specific, but then you find yourself in Instagram scrolling for 5 minutes and you completely forget what was the reason you took your phone up in the first place? You're watching this video because you feel something is off about the way your brain works lately. You remember a version of yourself where you felt more focused, sharper, and healthier. And you know the feeds are not giving you what you need. Your brain operates on a brutally simple principle. Use it or lose it. Your mind is not a hard drive. It's a muscle. Stop training it and it slowly dies. It sounds a bit dramatic, but think about it. How difficult is it to just remember a phone number these days? I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I had at least 10 phone numbers memorized in my head. These days, it just feels impossible. And I'm sure it was the same for you. There's a concept in neuroscience called the cognitive reserve hypothesis. A healthy, high-capacity brain is one with a dense network of brain cells and strong connections between them. A brain with low cognitive reserve has fewer healthy cells and weaker connections. To build those connections, you have to use the cells. And then you have to keep using them to maintain the link. That is the part no one really talks about. Maintenance. Short, bite-sized content is not enough of a workout to keep those connections alive. Of course, brain rot is not literal decomposition. It's more like cognitive neglect, and neglect compounds. So what actually reverses it? Self-education. Actively using your brain is good for your brain. It's so obvious that it sounds almost stupid to say out loud. But look around. How many people do you know who are genuinely learning something very difficult right now. Not listening to a podcast at 2 times the speed while doing dishes. Actually sitting down and mentally wrestling with difficult material until it clicks. Almost nobody, because it's uncomfortable. And we've been trained to avoid discomfort. I've got 2 more studies worth mentioning. A Utah State article on cognitive reserve says that deep learning is the #1 brain stimulating activity that you can possibly do. And a Delaware Journal of Public Health published research on lifelong learning and dementia prevention found that mentally stimulating activities promote the production of new neurons and neural connections. That means new brain cells, new pathways, which is the opposite of the cognitive decline that we're trying to stop. You can get these benefits in a classroom, but I recommend self-education for 2 main reasons. #1 is accessibility. School is expensive and it runs on a fixed schedule that you as an adult with a life probably cannot accommodate. When you direct your own learning, you find materials that fit your budget and you slip studying into the actual pockets of time that you have. 2. Intrinsic motivation. Self-education runs on a fuel that no external reward can replace. When I was a kid, I didn't learn things because I was forced to or someone told me to. I sat down and I read encyclopedias for fun. I watched National Geographic, History Channel, Discovery. I bought books on drawing, programming, guitar, drums. When I got my first computer, the first thing I searched for on the internet was how to hack, which just told me that the first thing I needed to learn was to code. So I started with HTML. But yeah, I wasn't building a resume with all those skills and hobbies. I wasn't aiming for a career. I was just curious. And that curiosity stuck with me. Recently, I got certified as a personal trainer. Not for a job, but because I genuinely wanted to understand how the human body works and apply that knowledge to my own training and helping my friends and families with their training too. That kind of motivation is another thing we're losing right now. The ability to do something hard simply because it makes you more of who you already are. Not because it will get you a promotion, not because it looks good, but because it feels like you. Hey, if you think you're getting value from this video, consider liking and subscribing. Every video on my channel is all about reclaiming your ability to think deeper so that you can make better decisions and figure out what it is you actually want to do with your life. And if that sounds like you, I guess I'll be seeing you around. I promised you a system. Here it is. My 4-step self-education framework. Step 1, select. Your topic determines everything. Pick wrong and you will quit. Pick right and the interest itself carries you through the hard parts. Just follow your curiosity. I speak 3 languages. As an English speaker, I probably should have chosen Spanish or maybe French. You know, it's more practical, more useful, more relevant to me and my background. But I was fascinated by Chinese. The writing system, the tones, the culture. That fascination kept me going for 10 years. If I had picked the sensible option, maybe I would have lost interest in just a month. If nothing jumps out immediately, give yourself some time, a week maybe. Just notice where your attention goes when no one is telling you where to put it. And here, you can actually weaponize the For You page. Do you scroll up on cooking videos? Maybe you actually want to study food science and not just watch someone's plate. True crime person? Maybe forensics is your thing. Step 2. Curate. Find your resources. I genuinely enjoy this stage because it is the first step into a new world. And we're living in an era where nearly everything you want to learn is available to you at your fingertips at any time, mostly for free. The danger here is overwhelm. Too much information, no structure. So I use a rule of 3. 1 foundational resource, 1 expert to follow, 1 active community. For Chinese, a vocabulary app called Sticky Study gave me the foundational vocabulary for Chinese. A teacher or online channel was my expert, and real-life language immersion as my community. Your community can be a meetup group, study partner, or something as simple as a subreddit. 3 anchors, that's all you need to start. Step 3, apply. If you've heard of the Feynman technique, this will feel familiar. The physicist Richard Feynman developed a learning method built around 1 move. After studying something, teach it to a child. Explain it in plain language, no jargon, no shortcuts. If you cannot do that, you don't actually understand it. The Feynman technique works beautifully for conceptual topics, philosophy, literary theory, psychology. But for practical based skills such as cooking, learning an instrument, hands-on things, I ask different questions. What am I doing and why am I doing it? When I was studying for my personal training certification, it was one thing to know that hypertrophy requires 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. It's a completely different thing to understand what's actually happening inside the muscle fibers and why it happens. Why that rep range? Why 60 to 90 seconds for rest? Why not 5 reps in 3 minutes? Knowing the why is what makes the knowledge stick. Application is the difference between knowing about something and knowing it. Step 4, reflect. After you have taught your material to someone on paper or out loud, the gaps will be obvious. What did you struggle to explain? What concepts did not quite hold together? On the flip side, what new connections did you make? What are you newly curious about? I do a weekly audit. 1 page in my notebook, progress made, questions I still have, insights that surfaced. The following week, I attack those weak spots before moving on to something else. And from here, you cycle. Apply, reflect, create new resources as you progress. The system develops your critical thinking along with what you're studying because you are the one evaluating yourself. Nobody's grading you. You are in the driver's seat of your own mind. Now, before you go, 2 traps to watch out for. Trap number 1, beginner hell. We've all been there. You started learning something and you love it, but you just want to become an expert immediately. The gap between where you are and where you want to be seems impossible. Seems too far ahead. You start wondering if it's even possible. I started learning Chinese over 10 years ago. And for most of the time, it wasn't just some steady upward trajectory. I had bursts of intense study with a course or a teacher, and there were also times when I fell off. There were long stretches when I was dropped into situations where I had no opportunity to use English to communicate, so I had to use Chinese. That forced immersion was brutal, but it worked. But it took 10 years. 10 years of progress, stagnation, progress again, ups and downs. Now I'm what you would consider fluent. I can read, I can speak, I can type in Chinese, but again, it took a long time. If you're in the beginner hell, just ask yourself one thing. Do I love this enough to endure the growing pains? If the answer is no, quit. Seriously, try something else. But if the answer is yes, don't give up when it gets hard. The love of the work is the engine. Let it run. Trap number 2, shiny object syndrome. You might love being a beginner so much that you keep starting new things and never go deep on any of them. Every time a new interest grabs you, you dive in. Look, I respect the energy, but here's what that actually is. Your infinite learning restart becomes the new scrolling. Starting a new project gives you the same dopamine hit as scrolling to a new video on TikTok. As a kid, I wanted to learn everything simultaneously. Still kinda do. That curiosity is a gift. But shiny object syndrome is what happens to people like us when we're not anchored by discipline. The fix is to vary your methods, not your topic. Stick with the language you choose. For example, read a short story on Monday, grammar drills on Wednesday, a podcast on Friday, practice speaking on Sunday. Every session will feel different, but you're going deep in one domain instead of skimming 6. Depth over novelty. Always. Self-education is the answer. Not just because the process rebuilds your cognitive ability, but because the act itself is proof of the person you really are. So start this week and use the framework. Just see what happens when you stop mindlessly consuming content and you actually start thinking the way you used to, like using your brain and going deep on things. That's it for today. If this video did something for you, hit that like button. It's the fastest way to support the channel. And tell me in the comments, if you could study one thing, what would it be? Or what is something you're already teaching yourself now? I'm genuinely curious what you guys are studying. Thanks for spending your time with me, and I'll see you in the next one.